Evening.
Evening to you too.
How are we doing?
Good, good. Last recording, if someone listened to the last one before they listen to this one, they'll know it was a bit heavier for me than I expected.
Yeah, I didn't expect that either. That was an interesting evening.
Yeah, yeah. So,
Productive, but
oh, certainly. It's productive, but unexpectedly deep and uncovering unexpectedly, in some ways, painful stuff. But it also
yeah.
needs to be dug up. And so after that, I decided that it was at the point I felt like I should go talk to a professional, not just keep it between us, because it feels like a worthy point to make that talking to friends is great, but sometimes it is worth checking in with a professional at least, and might take a while to find the right professional for the situation, but yeah, there's a
Oh
value
yeah, and you
to.
can also there's more time that you can do and it's structured for that better.
Hmm.
Assuming, as you say, you find someone who's got their head on straight. I'm not sure what the regulatory situation around professionals in that field are in this country.
Yeah.
Hoping it's not too bad.
Yeah, well, I
But
just went to the guy who helped me after leaving my ex, and at that time it was more, I don't know, yeah, and I don't know a lot of things anymore. Feeling like I'd, well, I suppose that's a sort of result of some sort of gaslighting of not knowing where up is anymore in a mental sense, and worked
mm,
worked that out for a while. And he's also a relationship counselor, so that kind of lines up with the goal I have of working out how to become, how to phrase it, someone who looks worthy of entering a relationship with.
mm.
Yeah.
Well, some topics tangential to that we could talk about if you want. But do you have any follow up for or for me or for the people? Any progress you think you made on
Oh, yeah, there's lots of little
anything you want to say
bits.
about that last recording?
Yeah, so how, what was the last bit that I dug up that you remember? Because then that gives me a progression to
Okay.
carry on with.
I remember the general gist of the discovery was that you held your own personal actions and the goal of your life. It's such a high stake that you could sacrifice everything to it, including yourself and your happiness. Like you were, I'm trying to think of an analogy. You're crucifying yourself
Martyrdom.
to to achieve a goal. Yeah, but not you're
I'm
denying yourself all personal pleasure and not all, but a majority of personal pleasure and personal satisfaction in order to achieve a goal that is quite literally impossible for you to achieve.
hmm, yeah. Since
You're
then,
not allowing yourself to be human. You weren't allowing yourself to live and to do your thing for you.
it's funny how,
You're selfless almost,
yeah,
but in a bad way.
yeah. It's funny how even just bringing that sort of stuff up to conscious awareness starts the process of dealing with it. Like you don't need
Mm.
to find the answer. It's just finding the problem is half of the solution. And
Yeah, I had that in the last week as well.
yeah, so hearing you lay that out now, it doesn't make as much sense as it did then, which is probably a good sign. And I think that I feel like a lot of it comes from, uh, or at least my current guess is that a lot of it comes from sort of excessive empathy to the world, and more than I knew how to deal with at that time.
It's also based upon your catastrophic vision for the future.
Mm.
You wouldn't need to save the world if you didn't think it wasn't, going to end.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I'm the complexity that came out of that. Um, so spiritually, I find spiritual connection to whatever. There's many words for it, but I'll just leave it at that. Um, in the natural world, I've been exposed to a couple of different forms of Christianity, um, and had what I perceive as contacts with various other gods. But what is most emotive for me in that sense of connection is the natural world and the beauty of it. And in seeing that pain, I feel like I've, in a sense, damped off my emotions as a defense mechanism, which makes sense from
Okay. I think you
it.
skipped a step.
Yeah,
What pain?
the pain of empathy of seeing. It's like, I'm not sure if I'd come up with this analogy before, but it's like watching two family members, both of whom you love, killing each other. And previously, the one I perceived as the aggressor was humanity, and that then cast them in a bad light, although it's more complex now. Um, like after that, I tried to ask on an inner level or just pose the question, and this can be interpreted in various metaphysical ways, but I asked what the joy and the value in humanity was, and I got the sense of like a tidal wave of bright joy. And then I got a touch of it, the hint of like laughing babies and joyful children and people just trying to live and love and be and do the best they could. And it's like, that's not bad. That's not evil destroying the world. And so I was counterbalancing that against the beauty of nature, not in a unspoiled virginal sense, but in a living member of the family sense. The sense you love a loved one and the pain of seeing those two at loggerheads and so much death and destruction happening within that, the only response I could come up with was to wish it wasn't. And if I perceive I could, then I have to do something to stop it. Although that's in a reevaluation and restructuring process in my head, so it's not solid at the moment. But I want to be on the side of the scales that's more towards balance, if that makes sense, so that like, I don't need to be at the answer. I just need to be pulling the the average towards better as I see it, and everyone will see it in a different direction. But like something, I think I used to go to community gardens more through uni. It was convenient and so on, and I haven't been involved in that scene much recently. And I think that I'd stopped because I felt guilty for not making enough progress, for not achieving enough in that.
Hmm.
But being there was still good, so I was denying something that would actually be productive to that goal because I didn't feel like I was making enough progress in it.
Right. The goal was too high.
Hmm.
Doesn't matter how much work I do, I can't achieve the thing. Or I'm not getting close to it.
Yeah, and that's the sort of logic that you often find buried in your subconscious, and that's what I have brought up and from seeing it, and it's like, well, that doesn't make sense. it starts to break down. It's just the awareness itself, which like I can still the pain is still there in a very distant sense. In a slightly abstract, muffled sense that I'm aware of its presence if I go looking for it. Of
Okay,
the
I think the pain is interesting.
hmm,
I'm wondering if it's like pain from empathy about the horror of existence,
that's certainly there.
more general than just nature.
It's multitudinous and specific, as well as general. So it's like the pain of tragedy in war torn nations, the pain of people struggling to get by, the pain of people who've um, made mistakes and got pulled down by drug abuse and who are on the streets miserable and
Right.
um, threatening themselves with suicide because their life is meaningless, and the pain of um, the the living nature as I perceive it being raped and pillaged by those
So this
who,
is
yeah,
this
those
is the what did you say? This is why is there suffering question.
I
Why
guess,
would
yeah,
God
yeah,
have a world in which people feel pain and things go bad?
yeah. On a logical level, it makes sense within my metaphysical framework, but on an emotional level, it still hurts.
Yeah. Um, hmm.
Because to me, this is, well, from the Christian perspective, it's this is before heaven, and then the problem of evil is still a problem in there, and I don't feel like, to me, that is not resolvable in a monotheistic,
Yeah,
it's this then heaven context.
that's not a great not a very charitable interpretation, I think.
Agreed. Yeah.
I'm
The
just trying to think
mm,
about my own personal experience with this. I've certainly had these feelings before. Hard to say that I've accepted them, but I guess I have. I've had a somewhat similar thing in the last week with thinking about the relationship between men and women in general, which has been on my mind a lot. And there is a pain and a fear there, but I think that's a bit different. Why why do things have to be this way? Why is there hurt? Why is there
for me personally, I conceive of it as oh, there is more after this, and once the lessons that the pain is here to teach have been learned, once we've mastered this stage, then whatever the next stage is, it's a bit better than this. And there are many lessons that we would not learn in life without pain as the reason to learn them. And as you learn the lessons, most of the pain turns out to be self-inflicted in a almost honest mistake way in charitable cases, but also malicious intent leading to hardship. But although that conception does include reincarnation in it to sort of complete the cycle of why do bad people get away with things, and the answer being they don't.
yeah, they don't in this world either. Hmm.
Mm. And then I look at it sort
Is
of like
it
just like
is it
children
pain
have
and suffering
tantrums.
in general, or is
What
it specifically evil?
within my emotional view of it, it's not separated.
Okay, that is interesting. You feel the same reaction to consequent things things not done for evil purposes and things done on purpose to hurt people. Like someone falling on hard times and then someone wanting to hurt someone and just destroying
Some
their life.
something caused by maliciousness. Something caused by maliciousness is in one sense easier because there's a someone bad to rage at. It's like there's a fault to lay at someone's feet. But the tragedy of existence is a tragedy, but it's
They're just bad.
what do you mean? The experience is
Is
just
that
bad.
the theory that they're just bad? They're a bad person.
As in the people who cause the pain or the people who are experiencing the pain.
The people who cause it for fun.
There's a lot of aspects to that question that are
Okay. I
what is
think I might be going too far off topic. I
yeah,
think my point was going towards the do you see that people like that is different from you? Um,
as in I'm not doing things maliciously to make the world worse.
well, no, is like they're a different type of person.
No.
Okay, good. Hmm. Pain and hurt at the horrible parts of existence and wanting things to be pure and beautiful like childhood. When were the ugly things in life taught to you? Would you say you were like sheltered and withheld from things like that?
As far Going back as far as I can remember, I was not very socially included at school. It's like you talked about the purity and beauty of
Mm,
childhood, and I'm like, it doesn't feel like that.
okay, that's interesting. Um, were you intellectually aware about the horrible parts of the world? Do you?
As
That's
far
probably
back as I can remember, which probably only goes back to like eight.
that's still pretty reasonable. Okay. It's interesting you brought up the school thing because that's personal. That's not just the world having being painful. That's the world where it meets you being painful. It's very similar to my experience. And it was during that time that I had the same feeling of like unjust world.
Yeah, I didn't have many friends in school, and yeah, so childhood being, I wouldn't call my childhood sheltered.
Unjust? Hmm,
There may
interesting.
have been a feeling
Yeah,
of that.
do you feel do you do you feel the world is unjust? Unjust. That things aren't fair, that things aren't right, that there's something about this game that's wrong.
If you zoom out enough levels, no.
That leaves a mighty wide door open.
Within within one life, I think that it can be entirely unjust.
Okay, but being itself? Well,
The
okay,
wheel
these are
turns,
silly questions
things come and go.
because I think
I don't think life is at its core unjust. I feel like
you're struggling with the bad parts of reality, which tells me that it's not accepted by you. You may have your own arguments, but you're not convincing yourself.
it's an emotional argument on that level of I feel that hurt. I don't want it to
Yeah,
hurt.
the emotions teach us. They're indicators to the parts of your subconscious that you can't communicate with. It's not there just cause. It's there because something's wrong in your framework.
Because people aren't aiming
I
up.
feel I'm out of my. Maybe, but that's other people.
Something that may or may not have relevance to it that I came across over the past week. Um, when I was a child playing with my brother, I can recall accidents during play, and he'd get hurt, and I'd cry because he was crying. And what I felt like was rooted in that, so that's what I traced out afterwards, but a sense that I was scared of my own power. That I didn't want to be
Mm,
powerful because I was scared of causing hurt
hurting.
at the same
That
time as wishing to
sounds
stop the hurt in the world, which
okay. That maps pretty closely with the rest of the stuff you touched on. And it also links in quite well with your attempting to discover your masculine stuff recently.
because yeah, like I was doing karate from well through my teenage years. I can't remember exactly when it started and stopped, but through my teenage years up to when I started uni, I was doing karate. I got to the last step before black belt, and it'd be a solid effort to make that last step, but that's a number of years of training and knowing how to move my body and the ways in which I could use my body to cause harm. So I knew that I know on a experiential level that power is there, and I've on many occasions been acutely aware of it with my son that he's 5, and I know that my body has the physical power to do terrifying levels of harm. And that concept is very scary.
Mm-hmm. You seem like you have it pretty well put together. Not a temptation for you?
The temptation to do it, if it is there, is strongly balanced by a terror of that outcome.
Well, that's good. I think. Hmm.
It's like in the intrusive
I think
thoughts sense.
There's an integration thing there.
Yeah.
Intrusive thoughts is not the same as urges.
Yeah, intrusive thoughts in the sense of I'm aware that this is a physical potential, but
Yeah.
not
I
a character potential.
yeah, a thing I could do, not a thing I want to.
Hmm.
Yeah. So you're in pretty good shape there. I wouldn't worry about that. It strikes me as this is part of your integration issue
Yeah.
because you you touched on all these different parts of the world that's sore to you, and it's where something is hurting something else, and then you touched it in your childhood, and then this link to your ability to hurt other things.
Hmm.
So there'll be an integration of the shadow thing going on there, as far as I can tell. That's what's
Yeah.
happening.
And
I can't elaborate too far on that today. I'm not at my best,
the furthest I've
and
got
I
in
feel like I'm having trouble.
yeah, long day for you.
Yeah, yeah. I got my own stuff on my mind, my own issues, and that.
Yeah. The furthest I've got in trying to integrate that so far is the idea that by applying my own power with with a level of competence as much as I have in my own failing way, I will do better than the cruel world on its own. That I will do better than random chance. And
Yeah, you got to see the value in it.
hmm,
and not only the value, but the what you got to see that it is more valuable to have that as a part of you for the force of good. It's stupid that there's a Doctor Who quote I quite like from that, which is I may be on the side of the angels, but it doesn't mean that I'm one of them.
Oh, yes. Or what was it?
Which I very much like.
Now I'm trying to remember who that was.
There was the other one about good men don't need rules.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one. Yeah, that was the other one that you made me think of.
Yeah. So, maybe
Yeah.
don't ask why I need so many.
Yeah, which yeah, it's like who is a good person, but not a harmless one. And that concept of harmless, like unable to do harm, unable to
Yeah,
threaten.
not helpful because you can't protect then.
Hmm.
That's what men are. We're absolute monsters that protect and provide and do good when we are good. Good man is not pathetic. He is strength and purpose defined, but for the purpose of helping, of making things better, protecting,
In
providing for people.
one of our previous discussions, I was espousing not being afraid of your own strength to try and then see the errors and make it better. And I feel a little bit hypocritical having found the same weaknesses, if that's the right term, within myself.
Yeah, well, this is why I'm saying, it's an integration of the shadow thing, and I don't, I'm not sure how much I can help you because I don't actually know how to do that.
Hmm.
I think I've done a pretty good job for me, but I don't even know what I've done
And
to move that along.
you are substantially different to me in some key ways. Like I'm slowly putting
Yeah,
together my understanding of what I think to get to the point where I can disagree with you on some key things.
yeah, and with the shadow side, you're sort of like bringing it up from the depths and like consciously trying to bring it out, whereas I've always been struggling to keep it under control. And that's a very different dynamic for bringing it into yourself.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, which I'm still struggling with. So I've made some progress this
Yeah.
week, and
Because
that's good.
because
I want some things to.
I'm almost empowering the shadow. I'm digging it up to empower it because out of fear
You
of
buried it.
that power, yeah, I buried the shadow because of I don't want to hurt anyone.
You know
And
what I do wonder?
mm,
Seeing as you buried it, I wonder how it's been acting out all this time.
hmm,
Because, you can't actually get rid of it.
certainly.
It'll If it's unconscious, then well, it's unconscious, but that doesn't mean it's inactive. It's there when you're not paying attention and not aware. Which for you seems, not often, but I doubt it's never.
Hmm.
Just makes me wonder what it's been doing all this time. So I certainly learned that with my wife is that just because it's unconscious does not mean it's not there and not 100% wreaking havoc
I
to
wonder
be, noticed.
I wonder if I'd managed to uh, the image of a gun barrel with the or a gun with the barrel bent in a U shape to point back at the one pulling the trigger comes to mind.
Yeah, I could see that it's been a bit of a self-sabotage setup.
Yeah, like I didn't want to hurt
Although,
anyone else, so I
yeah,
put myself in the way of my own gun.
that
But
sounds that sounds pretty reasonable actually, considering what you've been talking about.
because I can,
Because you've been hurting yourself unconsciously. an
Mm.
attempt to pursue a goal that is well beyond reach.
This whole thing's fractal. The deeper you get, the deeper it goes.
Yeah, welcome to the unconscious. You've got 50,000 issues and they're all layered on top of each other, and um, it's hard to tell if there is a base or if there's a web, and they're all interdependent. I think there is always a base, but I often think that the base foundational problem is something that is unrememberable because it's before certain memory pathways were actually developed, but the brain was still impacted, in the first year or whatever it is.
By my metaphysical um, structure that I work to, past lives would come into that too. If you have a trauma or habit that you build up, then that can come back and be something you need to deal with as a character trait, an innate character trait in succeeding lives.
Um,
It fills in the
yeah, I don't
blanks
think I,
of,
I don't think I buy that.
yeah, it fills in the blanks of stuff happens for no apparent reason in my mind. And it's a convenient explanation that lets me just get on with dealing them rather than umming and ahhing about where they came from
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah, it is a convenient. I would definitely say that it's convenient to not have to look at the origin of your idiosyncrasies.
Still worth
You
digging
go,
into them
oh,
though.
it's my astrology chart and my past life. That's nothing to do with my control or anyone that I've ever come in contact with. So I can just clear everyone of blame, and it just,
No, in
mm,
some senses I disagree with that characterization because the which is the cause
well,
and which is
obviously
the
hamming
effect
it up a little bit.
is it, sorry?
I'm hamming it up a little bit,
Hmm. Yeah,
but my point
it's
is, it puts the responsibility for the way you are outside of
hmm.
your upbringing, effectively.
I think it's the cause and effect is in parallel in a sense. So the correlation is observed, and
I think we might be getting a little out
yeah,
on the
yeah,
branch here.
yeah, definitely. But to
Not today, not the day for metaphysics. Again,
yeah,
sorry.
yeah. So to try and pull it back to yeah, self-sabotage out of a desperation to not make things worse and directing that power at stopping the harm that I have control of, which is the harm that I do, is an interesting concept.
Your potential for, I would say evil, but
Heal?
ill. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, it was attacking you
Eel like the
as you were
slimy
setting
fish?
yourself up. Oh, ill. I was thinking. Yeah, I don't really know how to pull this apart.
Hmm. You're not on top of your game.
No, I'm not on top of my game, and I have been reading a fair amount of Jung, but not easy. This stuff is ridiculously complicated
Yeah,
and couched
yeah,
and I mean, all of our myths throughout all of human history have been an attempt to explain things like this, and I've read like very few of them.
yeah. Hence why I went to a professional who's at least had some practice.
Yes, yes, real world experience can definitely make a big difference to that.
Yeah.
I think your point about putting your finger on a thing and diagnosing it, of like, oh, this could be why this is happening, is a huge step in the right direction to solving the problem,
Hmm.
which is what happened to me this week, I think, to do with my mother and stuff like that.
Do you want to have a turn?
Um, yeah, I guess that'll work. I've been, okay, as I said before, I have had issues controlling my, well, rage effectively, and that's been tough with kids. Um, like I know for well that like hitting kids is horribly wrong. but I have a lot of urge to hurt them and when they bother me. Particular things, noise and food-related things. And I sort of realized in the last week that it's like, okay, I'm not angry at them. I'm angry at my mother. When I was young and defenseless and did those things, that triggers it for me. Yeah, I was young and defenseless and I got hurt by her. And what I want is for her to be young and defenseless, or probably just defenseless, so I can hurt her without consequences. But that's not, a thing that can be done. So I think it's displaced unconsciously onto the kids,
Hmm.
which is why I think that people who were hit as kids hit their kids.
It
People who
makes
had traumatic childhoods carry it on
yeah, it makes
because they can't hit
emotional
their parents.
sense. Yeah.
And the other side of things is that, you can imagine the confusion for the child. That's this massive, scary monster who I love because they keep me alive every day is hurting me. And I don't know why. And I can't do anything about it or defend myself. Like, that's gonna fuck up anyone.
Mm.
And, you're gonna do everything you can to try and be in the right and not have that happen. But no one's perfect. You make mistakes, and then, the hammer comes down. And I wouldn't be this angry all the time if I didn't have cause.
Mm.
You know, I don't remember any of it, which is helpful. But I'm aware that it happened, and I have this feeling.
Do you think
And mm,
do you think you don't remember it because it's in one of those gaps you talked about before, or because it was before you were able to form memories?
I think it's gaps
Mm.
because I know people who have suffered traumatic childhoods. The cortisol levels in their brain prevent memories from forming. Is it cortisol? Stress, yeah, stress hormone, yeah. And it damages the system that produces memories in general, which is great. And
Mm.
yes, my memory system is horrendously bad, and I do not remember a majority of my life, particularly my childhood. And then I have all of these psychological effects that are all related to children, family, and relationships, women. So it's like clearly all my mother. I'm not quite sure what to do. I mean,
So,
acknowledging it's good.
yeah, I'm just thinking about does is it possible to distinguish where the anger comes from? It feels like it would be very difficult.
Where it comes from.
As in the past or the present. So one of your
Uh,
daughters starts making noise and playing around, and there's anger. If you catch it and look at it, can you tell? Although, no, I guess it's welling up in the present where
yeah,
it's.
and it comes on unbelievably fast. It's like a snap, like something I don't know, like a break. It's not like a
That's
thing that builds. I'm just
yeah.
happy, I'm happy, I'm happy, and then something happens and it's just whoa, rage instantly.
That makes me feel like it's already there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like when I get frustrated or grumpy at other things, it comes out, which is how I realized because like I was getting angry at cows, and then all of a sudden I was thinking about my mother. And I was like, that's interesting.
Hmm.
Um, which is how I came to the association. And it makes me think about the places where people go and get therapy and stuff, and they just like beat up pillows or whatever and scream at them.
Yeah, I remember one where it was, here's an old car that's getting wrecked. Here's a sledgehammer, go nuts.
Yeah, and people normally like curse about whatever relationship trouble they're having in their life. I don't mean like intimate relationship, just in general. That those things will come out when you have an opportunity to actually be angry,
Hmm.
which is another thing that I'm sort of, you know, we're not allowed to be angry in our society,
Yeah. It's weird
which makes
how.
me wonder because, everyone's fucked in the head and no one's allowed to be angry. And then we're like, why is everyone so, you know,
Um,
acting out in every other way possible?
just thinking,
And
and
then when there has been an excuse to be angry recently,
yeah,
riots in the street all of a sudden
Return of the Shadow.
over nothing. Yeah, you don't get away. You don't get rid of those demons, bro.
Yeah.
Unconscious doesn't go anywhere. You can shove all the bad thoughts down there, but that just means it's going to come out not in your control
Hmm.
the second it can.
I'm just thinking about that sort of like violence at an object type anger in my personality, and there's a lock. There's a like if I start imagining destroying something, there's a roadblock or a a closed valve. It's just like it stops before it reaches my fists. It just won't go there, which is
Yeah, I don't often have that. Okay, that's not right. I do stop myself. It's not a thing that I do.
but it's a decision.
But um, yeah, the stopping mechanism is not as effective. Trying to
Yeah.
think how to say this. Um, I get a lot closer to doing it before it is able to actually stop me, and it's very difficult to do.
Hmm.
It's not something where like, oh, the temptation, oh, stop. It's like the my whole being is like, yes, you need to, and then right on the edge of doing a thing is holding it there and bringing it back and stopping.
Do you have
It's
many?
not easy
Do you
to
have
control it.
opportunities to say in this space, say this room with this punching bag, it's allowed out to hit the bag?
Yeah, I don't really have a lot of that, and I need it.
Hmm.
The other thing is like I think screaming, like legitimately yelling and screaming in anger is something that would be very healthy, I think.
I feel like the two of us should get
Act.
together at a gym with a punching bag and
I don't I
uh,
don't know if doing
balance
it
each
with
other,
someone is a good idea.
because that's how we would end up getting punched.
I don't know. It's embarrassing.
Hmm.
Like I was just gonna say, like I think the screaming and yelling thing would be super cathartic, but sound tends to travel.
Hmm.
It's not, I do it in my garage or whatever, and all the neighbors are gonna hear me.
How far up the hill can you walk?
Further up I go, the more my voice is gonna carry.
Yeah.
Just up in countryside, I could, you know, there's nowhere I can go where I won't be heard.
Mm.
Maybe hitting or kicking something's sure, but I think the other thing is, I've been noticing this with the kids, is that we seem to not let children be angry even when they're, having a tantrum or they're upset about a thing that they can't do and they're angry about it. See parents' instinct is to try and tell them off and be like, no, you shouldn't get yourself under control. You shouldn't behave this way, which is true, obviously. But there's also a tick in my brain that says, hmm, you're sort of teaching them to never feel these things, that it's wrong to be upset or angry when things don't work the way you want them to or something.
It'd be
And I know
interesting.
everything in moderation. I'm not saying that that's a good thing necessarily, but
Yeah, from that perspective, it'd be interesting to hear any thoughts on how I've sort of felt out, not logicked out, how to handle my son when he gets angry. Because the one that comes to mind was when he was clowning around a bit too much before bed and everything was going slow. And so, after warning, I took away one of his toys and he got upset. And then it's let me know when you've calmed down.
mm, I
Like,
haven't really got. I've got a little bit of anger from my daughter, but it's still early stages. Mostly, she just gets like upset and cries. So that's probably my fault. Um, yeah, I don't know.
mm, yeah, it's just thinking about the equivalent for me that if I have a punching bag, I'm just visualizing it. Like I know how to throw a punch from doing karate. And in that context, it was always like, okay, I'll punch at you, and then you block it, and then you'll punch at me, and I'll block it. And now we're sparring, so it's just tapping each other. It's not actually trying to hurt each other. So it was not an anger-based thing. So I can throw punches at a punching bag, but trying to get
It's not an expression of that desire or feeling.
exactly, yeah, that's what I'm getting to. That I don't have a channel, or the channel is blocked that expresses anger that way.
Mm,
It's
that's the right way of thinking about it. Whereas
yeah.
I feel like I have it and I've somewhat channeled it, but there's not enough opportunity to express. Um, like I can feel it well it up. I can sort of imagine acting out, if I have the urge to scream or something. I don't mean like fear, I mean, rage. I don't know.
Just wondering if going out and for a nighttime walk in one of the fields where possibly the cows haven't been for a while, so you're not going to walk into a cow paddock in the dark and just sort of use the ground as a punching bag and attack it a little bit.
Yeah, I am gonna get a punching bag and put it in my garage and do it. Just you're not gonna yell at it.
Hmm.
I don't know. I think there's something there with not really being space in the modern world for expressing anger. And then I can see an association with, because of that, many people not being able to deal with their trauma because they can't get angry at it and act that out. Because you actually have to act things out to affect change in your life, because otherwise you're just conceptualizing it, which does jack shit. And then our entire culture being very pathological and bent out of shape, like someone who is traumatized and can't deal with it. Because we don't have space for people to actually get through their trauma. So it just builds and builds and builds and builds, and the society itself becomes stressed and fractured and on edge and just lunatics. Not sorry. Yeah, everything becomes insane.
I think, yeah, you've got the anger builds up like pressure in a tank,
Hmm.
and it almost feeds on itself. Where
Mm, feeds on itself? I don't understand.
in the sense of because it doesn't have an outlet and it just sort of becomes more concentrated. So lots of little annoyances purify into a little bit of rage.
Yeah, I find that I have a hard time sitting still for the same reason.
Mm.
You probably noticed that when we were here. I was pacing back and forth and walking and doing and looking at things because,
You were the one commenting I was wired.
yes, but mm, yeah, it's a different kind of thing.
Yeah, because I think that the in terms of the emotional path of anger, I wonder if I've got uh like the anger comes and then it just vents into despair
Yeah,
instead of
that's not very helpful.
yeah, but it's a different coping mechanism, I think.
Yeah, maybe. I think I chose anger over despair
And I chose despair because I didn't want to hurt
a
anyone.
long time ago.
Mm.
Yeah, I knew that if I choose despair that I'd hurt myself. And I decided that I'd rather be a danger to others than to myself.
Oh God, we are an interesting balance of each other.
It was a very pragmatic choice
Yeah,
because I knew what would happen if I let the other side win. If I gave up, because that's what it feels like to me. If the world is something about the world is making your life hell, you can either give up and say it's hopeless, at which point, you know, you're likely to kill yourself, which is where I would have gone. Or you can get very angry about it, which keeps you alive, but makes you, you know, not the most stable person in the world.
I'm just thinking of the darkest times with the ex. Not at the end, but sort of at the middle when things were taken most to heart.
Mm,
And that's sounding awful familiar. And since, like I said, the vent for anger, as far as I can tell in my psyche, was towards despair, because like you talked about deciding that you'd rather hurt others than yourself, and that triggered the that I made the opposite choice. That I'd rather
yeah,
hurt.
you sacrificed yourself to save others.
Yeah.
which sounds noble, but I don't think it is. Um,
It's it
doesn't sound right,
feels
does it?
yeah, it's I feel like both of these are different paths that can go to the same goal, but you can't get to the goal first.
Yeah, they're best of a bad situation kind of choices.
Hmm.
You completely pragmatic survival choice. That's the thing in a massacre. There's no decent place to stand.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have no choice but two bad options. Um, yeah, I don't really know what to do about it for me. I think ideally I would have a place I could go where I could yell and scream abuse at something and like hit it and have all my feelings come out so I can express them because I can't express them at the people that actually they are towards. Um, well, not all of them at least.
Does possibly writing them down help? So express it in writing?
No, it's not exactly cathartic.
Hmm. Not active enough.
No, it's too conceptual. It's too intellectual and hypothetical. It's not embodied. It needs to
Hmm.
be embodied. Otherwise, it doesn't ring true. And I guess that's all I can do about my side.
Is there a lake or a swimming pool where you could go somewhere you can stand up and then crouch down under the water and scream there?
Bad idea. Yeah, we have a pool, and it's closed for a while. That is not actually a bad idea. It's the water. I've never tried talking underwater though.
You need to time your breathing right if you try that, I think, because there'd be a temptation to gasp once you finish yelling.
Yeah, maybe that's something worth trying. It's not a bad idea.
Hence doing it in a relatively shallow area.
Yeah, I'd stick my head in the trough.
Yeah,
It's probably a bad idea. Uh, for other reasons.
scare the cows.
I
Might not
know,
be
they're
the most
full of bugs.
hygienic.
Yeah. My immune system and microbiome's good, but I don't know how much bacteria I want in my eyes.
Yep, yeah.
If I could do it at the bath in a home, it'd be pretty awkward though.
Yeah, I feel like it would still carry a bit through the house.
Oh yeah, it would.
Yeah, because in a pool, the vibration can spread out a lot more in a river. But in a bath, the vibration would hit the
Yeah,
side of the bath and then it would carry on through the house, just in the wood instead of the air.
yeah. I don't know. Something I have to work on, I suppose.
Yeah, find a river when
Mm,
it's not so cold.
same for you, but I don't know. Feel that.
Oh well, we've found
Oh,
some properly screwed up areas to work on.
yeah, I feel very tense and stressed now. Didn't even touch on the thing that was on my mind this week.
Do you want to round out with that, whatever it was?
Um, I guess I could briefly allude to it. Like, remind me next time. I was been suggested a lot of content recently in the realm of relationship stuff between modern men and women.
Suggested by algorithm or person?
Algorithm. Things like Andrew Tate or the whatever podcast, or is it just Pearly Things or whatever that show is. And it's a lot of this like very based kind of conversation about the nature of men and the nature of women. And there's just a lot of issues. There's a very sort of broy attitude of like, if you don't accept this, it's just because you're weak kind of crap
Yeah,
mixed in there, which I have my issue with.
yeah, agreed.
But there's also um like there's a lot of value there, don't get me wrong. There is a lot of value of like actually you need to be fucking masculine. But there's also a ridiculing of not I mean, ridiculing of men who aren't masculine is good. But there's a sort of a ridicule of men who aren't hyper successful. And then there's a denigration of women too. It's like a denial of the divine parts of men and women in certain different ways.
Yeah.
In a lot of that modern thinking, which is really annoying. You know, a lot of it comments about the nature, the fundamental nature of women, as if it's not. The the philosophy and the thinking surrounding that kind of thing seems to be inspiring a distrust and a hatred of women in general.
That's not gonna
And
go
it's
well.
being no, it's not. And it's being done by, high status men in general.
Mm.
It's a serious breakdown and it's really concerning to me.
Yeah, one of the ones that I've
Because
found.
because it's
Mm,
mixed in with a lot of truth. That's the
yeah.
problem. Is that there's like lots and lots of true things that are good, and then there's like super dangerous thing mixed in, and no base available for divine feminine and divine masculine in a non-sexual way. It's all brought down to like base sexuality and status games and hierarchy and betrayal and all this kinds of shit. All very flesh instinct, and it's denying any aspect of masculinity in man and femininity in women that is higher than. And it's not even just that, but even the story about the base part of it, the sexual part of it is very lopsided as well towards polygamy, rather
Mm.
than any kind of discussion about, say, um, natural inclination to pair bonding. Like, no conversation about that. Only a focus on the destruction side of things.
It seems very reactionary to other trends.
Well, yes, obviously this is all a very big knock-on effect of the sexual revolution and the shit shows that have been caused since then. The latest iteration of hell brought on by those people.
Mm.
Um, even just saying this out loud, it's sort of reminding me of our ideology map conversation
Mm.
about one half of the story, one half of the characters, you know, all good on one side and all evil on the other, or and I think there's something there about to do with this as well.
Because I.
I listened to a few of them, very few of them. I can feel feelings of um fear and distrust that like all female humans can't be trusted kind of thing welling up, and it's clear that that's in the philosophy and the messaging that's coming out. I don't think these things are conscious.
But it's
Like you
part of the
can,
collective subconscious we're connected to.
yes, you could make conspiracy theories about particular things that want, you know, for example, Western people in particular to be annihilated, and there's some truth to that. But at the same time, these these things are a consequence of what has come before, and they're an evolution out of it. And it's not particularly surprising that after, 50 years of attempted emasculation by a certain group of women who have also destroyed everything positive about femininity at the same time, the positive as masculine and feminine in the same stroke, that there's been a resurgence of ultra masculine, but it is like denigrating all women and what they've become in a very dangerous way.
And so the men who take up that path also lose themselves.
Yes. Well, I can't blame them too much. I mean, the percentage of modern women who are destroyed by this philosophy and become borderline evil creatures, most often not borderline, is quite high, and I can see why, having only experienced that, men would have that reaction.
Yeah, just trying to think of a way to
Yeah,
pin that down into a more concrete understanding.
yeah.
For
Well, it's
me,
a focusing
it's
on the negative. It's
well, the very real
putting.
cases of women falsely accusing men of rape and destroying their lives with it is the example
Oh
of
yeah,
that evil
and
that comes to
lots of
mind.
horrible stuff. Like yeah, but I think that's also the point, is that it seems to be that the algorithm really likes, because it's all men watching this. Particularly, most men on YouTube are kind of pathetic, wasting their time. I think the algorithm is very much like men want to aspire to be better men, so they'll see videos of men being like, ultra masculine. And they're also angry at women, so they really like videos of like woman bad. And these things have just like intersected and become a subgenre of content that's rather terrifying.
Mm. I feel like
Um,
these two complementary extremes are likely to annihilate each other.
well, I'm hoping the trad wife thing counterbalances this enough.
Because the thing
Yeah,
about so the destructive feminine the destructive feminist current, which specifically the destructive one, there's complication to that whole sphere in defining different groups within it, but that one was aimed at a destruction of
yeah,
men, and then this masculine one is almost
yeah,
aimed at a destruction of women in a sense, and
yeah.
so like
And
they're both
it's a
destructive, and
rebuilding of men, but a destruction of women. So it's
yeah.
like a step in the right direction. I
Whereas
would
the
say that the feminists you're referring to as destructive, as opposed to you sort of reference to a feminism that wasn't destructive, it made me think of one being feminine and one not. That the destructive feminists are not feminine in the slightest. They're aggressive and dominating and hostile,
so they're
whereas
manifesting
you think of
toxic masculinity.
yeah,
They're
and you
they're becoming
and
what
you
they
you would say
hate.
yeah, well, yeah, a woman trying to be a man is a very dangerous thing.
No, but more than
Um,
that, they're
there
spending
was
all
a
their
line that
time.
I heard recently that I
Mm.
thought was fucking amazing, which was someone said stop teaching young men to be emotional, and that's saying that's a good thing. Um, because an emotional man is incredibly dangerous, like really bad. And he's right. You don't want emotional men because that's when they commit the horrible crimes, when they're doing things because they wanna. Um, and that just struck me as interesting, that the dissociation is actually our strong suit. Because if we were, imagine if men were as emotional as women, with cycles and all of that, and getting, stroppy when things happen with hormones and stuff, and we're like big deadly creatures. That would be really bad. So there is something to the masculinity of controlled purpose, stoic, not so much emotional and drive based.
I've just had some shivers go down my spine at the thought of if I'd turned the anger outwards instead of inwards, given what it was that I was angry at. Okay, this is exploring new
Yeah.
territory in my head, so yeah,
Yeah, it's a scary thing to think about, isn't it?
the oh, if dove into like blow up petrol stations because they're the nearest thing that I could see to that was contributing to the destruction of that which was beautiful. It's like from my perspective now, there's obvious issues in that and inconsistencies, but like being emotionally driven with that innate level of aggression that I have instead neutered, for want of a better term.
Mm.
If it went the other way and was reinforced instead, and the wrong peer group to feed that,
You can see why
I'd be
I
in jail.
desperately clung to my marriage and my family through all of the pain that we've discussed,
Mm,
because the all of my hope for humanity is tied up here for me. Like I put everything I have in, into my wife, and if I get betrayed by her, that's my hope for humanity gone.
mm.
And I am rather terrified about what I would become. Um, because if there's anything I know about me is that I am not ineffective. Um, and I try not to think about it too much, as I have for short periods of time before and got very scared very fast. Which is why throughout all of the troubles that we had for those 4 years, as I never gave up. She had to be able to be saved,
Because saving her was saving
because
you.
it wasn't just saving me, it felt like saving the world.
Oh man.
Yeah, full circle,
Yeah,
but I'm serious. I felt that she was the representative of humanity for me,
I
and
wonder
she had to succeed.
I wonder if that's
I wasn't
something
gonna let her fail
is
because
yeah,
I
wonder
needed to have faith in humanity, and no one else in my life had ever given me faith in humanity.
I wonder if there's something innate to men in that we save the world or go down in flames with it. We go down with the ship. We save the ship or we go down with the ship. And that might
Mm,
lead to dark places as an
I
individual, but like you
I
save the
think
microcosm or the whole world, or you save the space you define.
I think that there is a trauma element there that you're missing from your map.
Hmm.
Because I don't think that men in general have the question about the goodness of being unless they have been personally hurt by it. You talked about your social exclusion, and I think about my time in my teenage years. The world was painful to me. The world was bad. There was nothing in it that was good. I was judging the world that way as well from the pain which I was feeling.
Because there's a big
And
difference between the world is painful and the world has pain in it.
yes, yes, you need hope. You need a sliver of something, anything. That's okay. Um, as someone who was in that situation, anything would have worked. One person in my life who wasn't horrific towards me would have done the trick. But, no one cared enough to do that. So, if you're out there and you know a kid, because it's children in general, who's having a rough life, do something for them. Be there for them. Be the one person who's kind.
I don't
Because
think
if
that
you're not, and if no one else is, um, I think I think a human being, a man in particular, who has no hope for the goodness of the world and no attachment to humanity because of that, I think that's where we get the most dangerous people from.
I
Those
don't
who
think
do the most damage possible.
yeah, I don't think we can overstate this that like there's certain points like that where one outcome or another in a person's life in one sense rests on a knife edge and it doesn't take much to push it one way or the other. Like someone can as a child can
Yeah.
be in hell, but if this is something I remember Peterson saying in one of his videos that all it takes is one adult to show an interest in that child and see the value in that child and show the child, I see value in you. There's something
Mm.
worth something in you. And
One ray of sunshine means a hell of a lot more during a storm.
oh yeah. Yeah, so
It only takes the tiniest thing. And when you don't have that, I think people hold on to hope for a long time. But when you don't have that, and no hope comes, and things only get worse, that's where you get the kids who shoot up school. And yeah, I know there's the psychiatric medication side of things, but all that does is loosen inhibitions. It's the same. They still have to have the motivation. And I think that goes all the way from the smallest thing of, well, violence, aggression, assault, criminal behavior, to mass shootings, to mass murder, to genocide. Figures like Hitler or Stalin, I think that they're just very effective school shooters.
hmm,
Where you get that one in a billion combination of an incredibly intelligent person who's incredibly good at organizing people and has an incredibly bad childhood. Not a combination that you want. Because, when someone has a horrible childhood and they act out in the world and they commit crime, but they're stupid and they just rob someone or they hit someone or they, beat people. They're smart, they figure out how they can do the most harm in the shortest amount of time, and I think that's the school shooter category. people like that, people who bomb stuff. But when you get someone who is intelligent and good at organizing people, and you can say play manipulative games and think long term, they can work their way up the chain until they're the head of a nation. And then they can do their best shot at destroying existence itself. All of humanity if they could. And I think that's what people like Hitler or Stalin were trying to do.
Yeah,
Hitler in particular.
yeah, I'm just thinking about it, uh, sort of the child's perspective of by if someone can be that ray of hope for them, that is in one sense equivalent to saving the world because it's saving that child's world.
Mm-hmm.
The world of their experience can be saved.
I do my best to be that for kids that I've come in contact with, especially kids I know who have a rough home life.
That's a real example of the multiplication effect of interacting with many people. That if you can be that for the kids of two neighbors, right? Then if you can be that just every now and again as they're growing up, and as they grow up, you might help them understand what you've been trying to do, and then they grow up and try two more that can, or if you get in a position where you're able to do it for a few more, if you find that as a calling that's meaningful to you, you could do it for hundreds of kids. Like school counselor comes to mind as someone who comes into contact with a lot of kids who potentially have issues. If like that's that job,
Mm.
how
Yeah,
many
but then it's a
lives?
job. It's
Yeah,
also
true.
that complicates and blurs the boundary. The kid doesn't think that it's just because, you
Mm,
care. I
and
think it's
there's
important to note
yeah.
here, um, having your own kids and raising them well has that same multiplication effect. You want to save the world, you could do it by bringing some good people into it and not fucking them up and actually giving them a good life. Mm, did that make you uncomfortable?
No, I'm just thinking about how that short circuits some of the argument against.
Yeah, the overpopulation stuff.
Yeah, like, well, given the way the population's already demographically set to decline substantially, it's already baked in.
That sounds, yeah, that's kind of horrific. But
But given
more
that,
good people, helpful.
yeah,
That same multiplication effect.
like, because we both agree that the future is looking rather grey, I think was how we phrased it. Um, grey pill.
Yeah,
And
yeah, there's some serious danger ahead of us,
mm,
but it's not unavoidable if we actually started having children again. It would be a lot less black of a pill
I'm
and a lot more white.
reevaluating a bunch of stuff in my head in that area in the sense of
Yeah,
sort of
there's
bringing
some
up the old assumptions and the new assumptions and the old arguments and the new
yes,
arguments,
yeah,
and yeah, I'm thinking it over again. I'm not sure what I think about it at the moment.
there's some serious conspiracy theories in this realm that could be solutions to a lot of these problems, which is slightly terrifying. You always have these conspiracy theories about what the governments or what the elites are doing and serving their best interest, and they all sort of are a bit ridiculous. But when you look forward into the future and you see all of the problems plaguing humanity, and then you see the conspiracy theories and the policies of high ups in the world seem nonsensical today, but kind of solve those problems in the future. That's terrifying. Um, I won't go into that today, but as a hint, our problem with pensions and the elderly, and our problem with healthcare and supporting the sick and the weak, and how at risk those groups are now all of a sudden,
I
and how they
always
were supposed to be saved by certain things that actually made it worth them.
I do wonder how much of this sort of stuff, in a general sense, I tend to wonder how much of that fits. What is it like? Don't ascribe to maliciousness, which you can also that which you can ascribe to incompetence. So if someone being utterly incompetent explains it just as well, then that's more
Yeah,
likely.
but that's convenient. You also have Occam's razor to deal with,
Hmm.
and you have the balance of probability. When you got
Yeah.
like 15 different things lining up that all sort of point in the same direction, and any one of them on their own is sort of millions to one in odds,
Yeah.
it's starting to get to the burden of proof being on the other side.
Yeah. Things like the various sequences of DNA and the bug,
Yeah.
let's say. Yeah,
And
so
the antidote, quote unquote, to the bug.
I haven't looked into that particular aspect of it, but the one that I was, oh, someone,
Did you know that that well, you probably do know this. You can't patent life, of course.
hmm,
You know, pharmaceutical companies can't patent molecules that exist or plants or animals.
so they
They have
need,
to make up new ones.
hmm,
Yeah,
yeah,
I'll
but
leave it at that.
um, oh, that like there's within the bug there are segments of the RNA from or the DNA, whichever it is that it's got from HIV and a few other bugs, where
Hmm.
it's like
If only.
over the
Yeah, it's interesting. It's not like the person in charge of the response and also the funding and creation of it had a similar setup with those other bugs that you were mentioned, like HIV. That'd be too much of a
hmm,
coincidence, wouldn't it?
as it was,
We're getting too off the deep
yeah,
end.
yeah,
But
fair
you
enough.
know what's funny enough is that that last week when we were recording the very deep episode
Mm.
and I was drinking, it was supposed to just be sort of a silly um Hamish talks about all his conspiracy theories show.
I thought it was going to be talking about the nature of aliens.
Oh yeah, I was gonna. Okay, that would not have been a silly show. That would have been a very deadly serious one because I was going to tell you about my experience and walk you through that and what I think happened.
Yeah.
And that's not something I can joke about.
My hypothesis is that we have similar concepts using different words to describe a lot of
I'm
it.
sure we do.
There was a phrase
I
I
don't
came
think that
across.
those would apply to what I had happened to me.
Hmm. There was a phrase I came across called ultra terrestrial, as opposed to extraterrestrial, that I thought might be in the middle between our two concept sets in some areas.
Okay, maybe, but the thing I had experienced was not extraterrestrial.
Hmm.
It was 100% human and 100% not friendly. The job was to scare the shit out of me. It certainly worked. Though I am publicly mentioning it, although vaguely. So, I should go to bed.
Yeah, we've
This
got
has
a
been a long and rambly, all over the place thing, but I think we touched on some interesting stuff.
yeah. Hopefully, it'll be vaguely interesting. Yeah, I have to think of what to call this one, but oh, later.
I got a rough idea.
Okay, that's an hour and a half of recording, so
Yeah,
yeah,
that'll do. I need to get something to drink and go lie down.
yeah, you do
I've
that.
been up for what's the time?
9:50.
Uh, in my math, I
What?
have been up for 18 hours. Yeah, that is not uncommon for
Well, I should let
everyone.
you get a drink and get to sleep, ready for tomorrow, and then onward with life.
Yep, I'll do it all again.
Yeah,
No, good chat, mate. And I hope you find some progress on your on the digging.
yeah,
As usual, I helped you poke at an axiom, but then it hurt, and you're like, "Ow, help!" And I'm sort of like,
yeah. Well, that's why
So
I've
you didn't talk to a professional, so that's good.
exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's like the message of recognizing when you're in deeper that you know what to handle, and going to talk to someone who's got at least practice at it is
Mm.
a good one, I think.
At least I'm not attempting to, you know, go in depth on things that I don't actually know. Like I only sort of talk about what I know about, and some of the stuff we touched on today is just beyond me, and I'm not going to try because that would be counterproductive. Probably end up harming more than I do good. So,
Yeah, I should do that personality test sometime. We put ours side by side, and because I feel like we're on the opposite end of a bunch of
yeah,
spectrums.
yeah, for the big five stuff, that'd be
Yeah.
interesting. Did you ever do the Myers Briggs one by any chance?
Oh, rings a bell. Rings a bell long ago.
It's the four letters
Yeah.
one. Yeah, you probably don't remember what it is then.
Nah.
Okay, I'll always remember mine for some reason.
Yeah.
Got a ring to it,
But I
but
think
we
we're
can do that
both.
on another time.
I think we're on the same end of the scale of openness.
Yes, yeah, we're definitely high openness, and I think both of us are introverted.
Oh,
Although,
you.
yeah, maybe not you so much.
Yeah, I think I'm middle of the scale on that one now. After our discussion about that.
Yeah, it's a hard one to judge, but your big five will tell you where on the scale.
Hmm.
That's the trouble with the Myers-Briggs one. It's more, it only works so well for people who have extremes, like me, which is
Hmm.
why that one worked for me. I am INTJ, by the way, for listeners who care about such things. That's what all the cool people. Yeah, like Nietzsche and Einstein. I
That's
am not
interesting.
that smart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's introverted visionary or something. Mm. I don't remember. It's been a long time. They actually made us do it as part of our uh tech support course from one of my diplomas, which was I thought quite funny.
Yeah,
It
maybe I
was just
should.
sort of a hey, tech Asperger's people. People are different and don't behave like robots. And if you're going to talk to people over the phone and help solve their problems, you know, you got to realize that. Don't be so Asperger's people.
Good luck. Mm.
Yeah, we can learn.
Yeah, I should probably do a personality test and maybe an IQ test, sort of as part of the learning not to be scared of my own power, because I've
That one
been.
always scared me.
Sorry?
The IQ testing always scared me.
Mm.
I don't want to find out that I'm dumb.
I don't think you are because of these conversations, as in the fact that we can have them would indicate no, I don't think you are.
Well, I hope you're right. I have always felt smarter than everyone else I've ever met. Um, which is, a very arrogant thing to say.
Mm.
And probably have based my personality to more than a little on that.
Yeah, because
And
I
it'd be kind of painful to do a personality, do an IQ test and get the result of like, you are average. That would really be not fun.
it would probably be a
And I can
good
be quite stupid sometimes.
it would be good in some ways, as in here's a
Yeah.
reality, learn to deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, I work with relatively normal people.
Mm.
Somewhat. They don't get along well with normal people. I just happen to have a coworker who is also called Hannah, who is also not dumb. So,
Yeah.
hmm,
Yeah, I had IQ tests as a kid, and I remember them coming out on the high end. I can't remember how high, but I'm scared of
hmm,
my arrogance, scared of feeding arrogance, but I feel
yeah.
like that was a cover for being scared of strength and ability and power.
Yeah, I never did anything like that. I only did the dyslexic stuff where I went to like a dyslexic specialist and I always felt dumb. And
Mm.
then he had me do exercises in a way that works for a dyslexic brain. And I was like really good at everything. And I went, oh my God, I'm not an idiot. It's great.
Yeah, because in the case for
And
me,
then I had to go back to public school the next day.
oh,
It was pretty hard.
fun.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
we were poor. She couldn't afford to do like $150 an hour lessons for me every week.
Mm.
So I did that twice and I went from like year 6 to year 12 in an afternoon. And then I had to go back to year 6 the next day, which was not fun. And that was like my entire school life from then. That
Oh,
was,
yay.
yeah, I do distinctly remember this, which I think was funny.
Mm.
In my primary school, this happened more than once. I was in the genius class for like the weirdly gifted and talented kids, which was like an after school class.
Mm.
But then my main class throughout the year was the class for the retarded kids.
Okay.
That I was in the stupidest, retardedest kids class. And then after school, I had to go to the genius one with people who were doing like, you know, symphony practice or whatever, all the super intelligent stuff. And I was somehow in both at the same time in the same school.
I feel like that's going to leave some psychological effects.
Maybe I have forever had this feeling of like I am super intelligent more than anyone I interact with, but I'm also a complete moron and I fuck up at everything all the time. Like I'm both. That's very difficult.
The big
And I
five,
feel like the second one might just be a bit of my own self criticism
the
and
big
self
five
loathing.
test includes an IQ aspect, doesn't it?
No,
Because I thought openness had two parts to it, one
no,
side of which is IQ.
no,
Okay.
no. It's interest,
Ah.
openness, or interest in ideas, and openness or interest in aesthetics, beauty.
Mm.
So you can be one or both, depending, or neither. So, very interested in ideas or beauty, images and art or philosophical concept, or not interested in the middle, which, um, for all of us listening, I would say, and the two of us, being high openness people is kind of uncomfortably hard to deal with the fact that there's people out there who are just not interested in anything intellectual at all ever, or anything beautiful at all ever. And that's just part of their personality.
Oh God, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's terrifying. You can tell them anything interesting, they're like, I don't care. Tell me about a person or what happened in the rugby team or something.
Oh yes.
Yeah, but here's the other terrifying thing.
Mm.
That person could score higher than you on an IQ test.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Independent variables.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's scary to me. I'm assuming they're correlated,
Well,
but correlation isn't 100%.
hmm. Well, in
That's for
terms
sure.
of being smart in some areas and dumb in others,
Mm.
I've got that too. But
Yeah,
I,
no one's perfect.
well, I'm trying to relate what you described to what I've learned as well as a sort of possibly useful background because um, before I started homeschooling, the teacher who couldn't teach me refused to believe a previous test I had, so she got my parents to take me for another one, and that was both a test for dyslexia and IQ and spelling ability and a bunch of things all at once.
Mm.
And I remember that there were some that were like 90th percentile, and then spelling was like 25th percentile.
That sounds familiar.
So I was put in the spelling recovery class of a total of three people for a little bit, but yeah, that teacher did not know how to handle me at all. Hence homeschooling, and then I went to uni, and that went well. But the I needs more to properly diagnose it, but for me, it was diagnosed as like gifted and talented, which is like different aspects of your intellect advancing at different speeds. We'll give it a
Mm.
plus a fancy term. So you charge ahead in some areas, and other areas are just really slow.
I had that similar diagnosis. I think that's the fault of the way the school system runs, though.
Hmm.
And by the time I was at uni or whatever, it was too late for me. I was already, had given up on trying to do good because it's punished. Um, yeah, like I say, when I worry about the IQ test thing, I think it's because I worry that I'm just average intelligent, but really, really high in openness. So, like, I'm super interested in all this stuff and I can think and talk about it, but I'm not actually clever. Um, that's my fear, at least. Although, you know, I somewhat doubt. But it's like the "Are you worthy?" thing.
Yeah.
No, I'm not sure if that's a question I want to answer.
Yeah.
Um,
Not
I
asking
probably should.
questions. Yeah, you got to be careful asking questions that you don't want the answer to because
Yeah, like, do I want that answer?
yeah,
It'd probably be a good thing to know. I very much doubt it's like top of anything if I'm like very smart or one of the smartest people in the top category. I sort of am worried about the world then. I kind of want there to be like a lot more smarter people than me out there. I just coincidentally happen to not meet a lot of them. Uh, some notable exceptions in this podcast and weird contacts I met once 10 years ago and have not forgotten. Hmm.
I feel like you know the answer to this
Hmm.
in the sense of you've said how you think it is and said what it appears to be, but then you're scared of it not being what it appears to be.
I think I'm afraid of all of the outcomes.
That's fair.
Like, I don't think that there's a. No, maybe if it's like, you know, reasonably above average, a couple standard deviations, but not crazy high. Then I can go, okay, I'm very clever, but I'm not, the cream of the crop,
Like
which means that there's smarter people out there that can actually solve the real problems and I don't have to.
like 75th percentile.
Uh, I guess
So four people at
I'm
random,
not.
one of them smarter than you, and three of them you're smarter than them.
I feel like that'd be a nice, comfortable position. I do not feel like that's my experience.
Hmm.
When I think about the amount of people I've encountered who have genuinely gone, "Wow, you're smarter than me," or even "You're equal to me," which is actually sort of mostly all I've experienced. There's like 3 interactions in my whole life. Interactions, people. 2 of them were just one-offs. Uh,
It's,
which is, a very small amount in a very large pool.
I think it's really difficult to recognize if someone's smarter than you in a way that where you don't feel threatened by it and react negatively.
Mm, yeah, I've never really had that because I've always had the drive to want to converse with people who are of, intellect. There's also the problem of like people can just hide it because, like I do, I think, or like pretty well because I'm introverted.
Hmm.
But the one person who came out of the gate swinging and had that sort of smirk, wise look and attention, and only said a few things and clearly indicated he's at a funeral once. Like that stands out of the gate as someone who's manifesting the hi, I see you. I am also. So it's funny that's that one interaction I remember. I don't even know his name. I barely even remember what he looked like, but I just know he was at my uncle's funeral. And we exchanged words for like 2 minutes. And I was, like 15 or 14 or something. That's the best I got.
Hmm.
I think there's a metaphysical angle there that I don't want to get into today, but I think it's more complicated than I'm making it out to be. I think I'm putting too much emphasis on the IQ thing
Yeah, yeah.
because,
It's
there's like very high IQ people who are just not at all intelligent as far as I would be concerned.
there's IQ and there's
Aware.
wisdom.
Wisdom, there's awareness too. There's an awakeness, a presence of spirit,
Hmm.
an ability to manifest energy. There's something there that's different. Spiritual aspect almost that I don't want to touch on.
Is it better to just leave it at we're complicated, everyone is complicated, and everyone is different?
That's fair. I don't understand me. Explaining it to you is probably not helpful,
Yeah.
although that's probably how I learn. I don't know. I don't know anything.
Oh, you can only
I
understand
don't
things
know
smaller than
anything.
yourself, which is why you break yourself up into bits so you can understand yourself a bit at a time. Does that make sense?
It's hard to break up infinity because all the little pieces are still infinitely big.
You got to start somewhere.
Well, that's a metaphysical statement if I've ever made one. Mm. it's hard to try and conceptualize existence and people because people has always been the thing I've tried to conceptualize and be interested in. But it's really hard to do that if we're all like little fragments of gods or God walking around, infinite spirits of light in a temporary body.
Or
And
fragments
here I
of the
am, like
universe
trying
experience.
to understand, trying to understand how childhood experience and the brain works and why people are the way they are and personalities and all of this and it's infinite being experiencing a small slice of reality for fun,
Yeah. Or
something along those lines.
fragments of the universe separated off for a time so that it can experience itself and learn and grow.
Yeah, the only thing that the infinite lacks is finite.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah,
Yeah. Which, in a sense, is the only thing the infinite lacks is everything, because everything is finite.
is individual. Yeah, like the only thing that God
Oh,
lacks is limitation. It's the same thing. I just reworded it.
infinite equals zero.
Yep,
That's
I remember winning a math contest with that. People were angry with me, but I was right. The closest number to infinity.
1/0 equals infinity, yeah. Oh, it's.
Instead zero. Nothing can begin if it doesn't end. There is no being anything without it being not something else.
Oh, you're dredging up some occult philosophy I read. It's amazing how often that comes up.
I still don't really know what that means.
Me
It
neither.
sounds just like a religion.
Um, the things that
It's
have been learnt over millennia, but which were the sorts of things that no, that's the wrong way to phrase it. Which were
a very
inconvenient
masturbatory description.
things that were inconvenient to those in power because they made people question those in power, and so they were hidden, which is what the word
Still
occult
a very
means.
masturbatory thing. What, so hidden knowledge, that's all it means? There's no coherent
Yeah.
philosophy.
Well, it's
So it's anything underground thought.
in a sense, yeah. So
So
it's
all conspiracy theorists are occultists.
old underground thought. Um, well, the origin of the term in its current domain is slightly different, but if the moon passes in front of a planet, that planet is said to be occulted by the moon. It just means hidden by the moon in astronomy terms. And an occult blood test is testing for blood in the stools that's hidden because of the processes in the body.
Okay.
So it
Okay,
just
then labeling things as occultist is stupid.
it's one of
If it's not a defining term, then it shouldn't be used.
I'm getting
Unless
there.
you're saying that there is a particular type of philosophy and thought that is under that label and it is self-contained and self-referential. I don't think that
I'm
last
getting there. I haven't
thing
quite
means what
finished the
I think it
definition.
means. Okay, sorry. I was
Yeah.
just going to say that if that's too broad. Can't have
So
that.
there was I forget when it was in history, but the church said started lambasting and complaining about hidden knowledge, which, drawing from the Latin, they termed occult knowledge. And this was sort of ways of training the mind, which led to questioning of official pronouncements and commands.
This is very talking about a thing without talking about a thing. Is this to do with the I can't talk about it Freemason kind of thing?
No, no, this is the words that are used to describe the things in other contexts don't mean what most people think they mean. I'm trying to find the words that would make comments that would be universally understood in the way I'm intending them.
I got a feeling that you don't know enough about occultist thought to explain it.
That seems fair. Yeah,
At least, at least not off the top of your head when pressed on what is all of it, which is actually a hard question to answer for almost anything.
yeah.
Um, so
What I have,
perhaps that's something you could open with next time. You can take the week, think about defining it. Like, okay, when you say occultist thought, do you mean a particular philosophy?
so what I mean from what I have encountered, if you, as a similar example, if you think of what's passed down in Buddhist monasteries to train and expand the mind,
Mhm.
in Western culture, passing down the Western equivalent was culturally banned. And what I have encountered is systems of mental training which use symbolism, which is the language of the unconscious mind, along with certain exercises, such as discursive meditation, which used to be widely used to study the Bible, um,
Mm.
as means of unpacking the meaning within the symbolism to train and expand the mind.
Sounds like a mystic Christianity, holding to the roots of the shamanist style experiences that founded it.
There are certainly routes that go in that direction. Yes, it is. There are many
Okay,
routes.
so it's effectively a religious framework then. I know you want to say metaphysical instead of religious, but
Do you define religious as taking things on faith without personal experience? Or,
no.
okay, it
Well, what is a
includes
religious experience?
an encounter with the divine.
That doesn't seem like taking something on faith
Hmm,
without experience.
yeah. In the metaphysical or religious experience sense, it's got this is
I,
what
s-
other
I
people found.
see I see religion
Hmm.
as unconscious and unarticulated philosophy, imagistic and action based, precursor, system of thought and thinking based in image and myth that guides action and metaphysical belief.
I would argue that that kind of image and action pattern in relation to the world is innate to the human mind, and there have been many attempts to claim that we've grown beyond, say, myths, which are also a part of it, which then just make a new myth and
Yeah, you're
claim,
correct about all of that.
yes,
That's why when I say things like I don't care how atheist you are, you're still religious.
mm,
That's what I mean. Is that that is the way that human beings think.
yes. So by,
And the foundation of thinking.
mm,
Like, yeah, we can have a little rational pie on top, but it's, a fruit of what is beneath.
mm. So by that definition, as I understand it from you, of religious, which uh, practices of relating to the divine, would that be a way of phrasing it? Or practices for relating to the divine?
Mm, there is a metaphysical side for that, yes. but there's also a connection to the unconscious in there too.
Hmm. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
dual
So
purpose.
by that definition, Western occultism is a religious system and worldview of many voices, all saying slightly different things.
Okay, so it's like okay, so it's like Christianity with sects. Every Christian has a different world view, but it's somewhat loosely based on the fundamental presuppositions of it, the base beliefs. And occultism has its own philosophy, but with many variations on the thing. But you can still say that they are all still occultists. Like
Broadly
Catholics
speaking,
and
yes.
Protestants are all still Christians.
Yes, the vast majority of occultists through the ages have been Christian. But
You seem to
yes,
have a very strong hesitation for me calling it a religious belief.
I have the association of religion as a term with organized religion, as in the Pope on high passing down his pronouncements on how thou shall worship God. Whereas my
Buddhist, not religion.
there's Buddhist esotericism, and that seems more complicated. Yeah, I
Okay,
think,
so you're trying to you when you say religion, you more mean religious structures, not so much spiritual
yeah, yeah,
endeavors.
religious dogma specifically.
Mm,
This is how the world is, and you shall believe it this way.
I can sympathize with that. I could say, or technically, whatever, but mm, yeah, that's what it means these days. It's
Hmm.
what it's come to mean. It doesn't represent the spiritual side of things because people are spiritual. And when people say I'm a spiritual person, you think something very different than I am a religious person.
Yes.
Those are two very different people in your mind.
Yes. And
And
while
the religious person these days does not seem particularly spiritual.
and it would be rather weird to have someone who professed to be both, say, Anglican and Protestant at the same time, a practicing Anglican and practicing Protestant at the same time, to pick two out of the hat.
Yeah, it
Um,
seems like a contradiction in terms.
Whereas with Western occultism, you could be practicing the system of multiple paths as long as there weren't conflicts in uh, the active work. Say it's working on your psyche on a deeper level in some senses, and there are like combinations that are known by watching how people have turned out by trying to combine them of doing this and this at the same time tends to lead to certain health problems
It's
in a
interesting to think about being of two different religious philosophies at once.
in the sense
Because,
of philosophical
well,
approaches where they are mutually exclusive but at the same time known to be only metaphors that we can understand rather than absolute truths.
oh yeah, I was just sort of had an interesting thought that I'm sort of a mix as well.
Hmm.
That I have a lot of Buddhist philosophy, but not entirely. There's some things I very strongly separate from them on and come almost back to Christianity in that sense, which is interesting.
Hmm.
I'm
One
Buddhist Christian,
Yeah. One
which is interesting.
combination that's known not to work well that I've heard is mixing traditional Western esoteric energy work with traditional Chinese Tai Chi that results in health problems. Tai Chi Chuan, which is one where it is symmetrical instead of asymmetrical and works slightly differently. That one works okay. And Japanese martial arts and the energy work associated with them mixes well with Western systems.
I find it interesting how much you've researched that kind of thing.
Yeah, this is
I've
a
just
good number of
always,
years.
I've just always done it the way that I've done it, and I don't think anyone particularly trained me. I think maybe my grandmother. She taught me that I could do it and sort of brought me. Yeah, I suppose she taught me how to visualize it and some basic concepts, but I think mostly it was experimentation.
Mm,
And I could always do it more than her anyway, so I feel like it wasn't exactly, you know, being shown. Well, showed me how to do it, but I wasn't being like led by someone who was a mentor or better at it.
yeah, where
Very often she got me to do it for her.
I've found known good paths to walk. So I'm not
Mm,
walking in the dark. I'm walking previously or territory explored by others, and I know how that's
yeah,
turned out
because
for them.
for some reason I find that I have a resistance to that. I feel incredibly comfortable doing it my way
Mm,
because it feels right and natural. It doesn't feel like it's filled with a bunch of things that I don't need. It feels very, very direct, very, very directly spiritual.
yeah, the sort of known path, I think, is, if I'm understanding correctly how what you're describing relates to what I've read, the systems of visualization that I've learned and symbolism are ways to get to the state you're describing for people who don't get there automatically or don't who aren't already there.
Yeah, I think this is an unfair conversation because I've always just been able to do things like that. Oh, I think we might be alienating a bit of our audience starting to get into this metaphysical stuff.
Well, it's been on the
But
list of things to
maybe,
get to.
yeah, it is. We should get it. It's kind of interesting. We've done all these concepts in like childhood work, and then in the background this whole time, there's been like um, energy healing and spirits and pure metaphysical other dimension stuff.
Just discussed as a, yeah, that exists. Moving on.
Yeah, like obviously, yeah. And then we just go on with talking about, trying to manage something else, which is funny. I didn't get into it with the work note when you were here, but that was the thing that they were all into.
Yeah, because we both know a number of people who have had direct experience of things that would be considered impossible according to the
Mm.
scientific dogma.
Well, me personally,
Yeah.
more
Oh,
than, yeah.
same here. Yeah, but
Like,
both
I
ourselves and
grew up with
several
this stuff.
others. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I grew up with it to the point where it's just when people say, things like there's no such thing as non-physical phenomenon or whatever, I just sort of like laugh at them. It's, I think I made a reference to this before. I think it's hilarious, honestly hilarious when you find people who are like, there's no evidence of this thing. It doesn't happen.
It's the equivalent of someone who's colorblind. If 99% of people are colorblind, and so the color red was
I think it's even
claimed not
better
to
than that. It's
exist.
like they're standing in front of a big billboard with proof on it, and they're looking at you, going, "It doesn't exist. Have you tried looking? No. Oh, did you just listen to the guy who said that it doesn't exist? Why did you do? Oh, because he told you he's powerful.
Uh, I love
Yes,
I love hearing
billboard
that.
guy bad.
Oh, was it? Thomas Jefferson. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was him that I read said this, that he said it was more likely that an entire county of people were lying than a rock fell from the sky. it couldn't happen, therefore it didn't, because they'd said a rock fell from the sky with a trail of fire. These days we call that a meteor and a meteorite once it hits the ground. And now we know that yes, there's lots of rocks up in the sky, but back then it was no, there are no rocks up in the sky. That is not a thing that is possible. Therefore, it
Yeah.
didn't happen.
What I think is funny is it's always the same people who have that kind of argument to do with other stuff. Like, it's always the same people who'll make well, they used to believe that the Earth was flat and that the everything revolved around the sun, and oh, weren't our ancestors so stupid? And then you say something like, you know, bring up ghosts or aliens or other dimensions, and they're like, no, there's no evidence. You're an idiot. It's not the case.
Yeah, tell that to the ghost
You
that gave me
can't,
a noogie.
you know, you can't have it both ways. You don't get to say that, like, people believed stuff in the past and they were wrong, and that's why you should trust science. And then you go, how about this evidence? They go, no, how dare you? Science doesn't agree with you. You
Yeah.
trust the science yet?
I trust my science. Go away.
Yeah, don't believe your lying eyes. I love that one.
Yeah, and it's like your eyes can lie. You can misinterpret stuff. So it's like don't just interpret everything as the
Oh yeah,
first thing it appears to
for
be, but
for
don't
sure.
but don't
But
discard the
that's not
first
what
thing it
that
appears to be.
means.
Yeah,
That's not what
yeah.
that phrase means. Oh,
Yeah.
oh, the TV said that I'm wrong. Oh, okay. I'll just forget everything that I've saw and experienced.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And it's
Oh
like
well.
I'm sitting here waiting for a better explanatory theory to come along. So I'm not devoted to a particular explanation, but the evidence
Yeah.
continues to mount in I experience something every day that attests to the
Yeah.
existence of certain things and
It's like it's burden of proof stuff for me at this point.
hmm.
Where they're all the saying is always like, you need to prove to me that, you think aliens exist or that there's spirits or that psychic powers or whatever. And at this point I look and go, I don't need to prove shit to you. I think it was quite funny. I actually told my family this once, and they burst out laughing because it's something that my grandmother used to say was I used to really love to argue with people, like all the time. And someone made a comment about me not doing that so much anymore, and I said, I hate arguing, and also, I've spent my whole life learning, and the things that I know are things that I know, and anyone who argues against me on the thing, I could make their point better than them. Like, way better. I know everything that they could possibly say. And this is why I don't do anything political anymore. Not seriously, I used to argue all the time because I just feel like I'm beating my head against a wall all day, every day. The same arguments and the same stupid things. I'm not interested in convincing stupid. If you think I'm wrong, I don't know, I think burden the proof is on you. Even still, I kinda don't care unless you can say something actually unique that's your own thoughts. That's the big one for me. I think that's the mark of intelligence. Someone who says a thing that no one else could say. That's their words that you
Hmm.
haven't heard before. And that's why talking about politics is just mind numbing. Because, probably had like, I don't know, 1,000 conversations about that in my life. And like 999 of them, people just said the same things that I heard the rest of them say. And they got them from the TV or their dad. And it's not their words. I'm open to new ideas, but they need to be new. They can't be poorly articulated versions of things I've heard before. And I suppose that makes it difficult to interact with normal people. Woe is me.
Yeah. So sad that people don't like to interact that way. Uh,
I think everyone lets everyone else get away with it. People don't call each other on shit. Imagine if you had a world where people actually called each other on stuff.
I
Like, I
did.
think about my relationship with my wife,
Hmm.
and she'll say something, or the kids at work, they'll say something that I know isn't quite right, or that they just, you know, say because it's habit or something like that. And I will call them out and be like, "Are you sure about that?" Um, no. Why'd you say that? I don't know. Hmm,
You said
interesting.
you said the kids at work. I'm guessing this is the from helping.
Workmates, children, yeah, who come and help.
Yeah, yeah, help milking cows and that. Yeah, it just
Yeah,
felt like it's
yeah,
like
they'll
it's not
like
child labor.
stay to no, no. I mean they help, and it's good. And I'm pro child labor, by the way. Um, with safety, of course. I'm not, you know, you don't hurt children. That's horrible.
Children
But I
having
think that
meaningful
you,
contribution, not children being enslaved.
yes, it would be
Yes.
much better for children to have experience in the real world and interact with adults than schools that don't teach them anything other than hating life and being socialized by nothing but other feral children.
13 used to be
Work,
adult.
yeah, yeah, and I have worked with an 11-year-old today, and he was smart and capable and able to help, and 100% would be much better for him to be there with me helping than at school with high school children or primary school children. He's still primary school, learning how to count. Not helpful.
Hmm.
Where's that going? Oh yeah, imagine if everyone called everyone else on things that they say that weren't quite right or up to the mark. When someone says something that you think is probably bull, imagine if everyone just called them and went, what was that? Do you actually believe that? Or did you just say it because that's the thing you say in the situation?
There'd be a bit of change that would have to happen within the culture for that to work. Because you'd need to
Well,
be able
obviously,
to,
but that's sort of beside the point.
yeah, you'd need to be able to say, I don't know, and have people accept that.
Yes, yes, that would be the valid response of like, oh yeah, I don't know. Because that's what the kids do when you call them on it. They say, I did this thing. It's like, are you sure? Uh, no. Why'd you say it? Oh, okay, figure it out. You're wanting to say something and wanting to be smart and not being able to be like, yeah, I don't know. We all got to have an opinion on everything. And with, most people being stupid, that's not very helpful, particularly when everyone can vote.
Not trying to offend anyone or anything.
Uh, no. I have no solution for that problem. I'm not. Yeah,
I feel like I suspect
I
you
don't want to think about it.
feel like if people get offended, that's not your problem.
That isn't my problem. Um, if you are offended, it's because I'm probably somewhat right and you don't like it. That's the truth. If a thing offends you, it's because there's truth there and that truth bothers you. That's the reality of the human brain, not my problem.
It's often
Something there that needs to be explored.
because it's often the things that we most dislike about ourselves that we find most hateful in others. And it's because we know that's part of ourselves that we hate it most in others. projection of the shadow.
Oh, sorry. I just could see nothing but the angry feminists who are mad about women being women. It was just instantly the first thing I saw was doing everything they could to destroy the, you know, ideal woman.
Yep, yep, yep. The
I think
That sounds
we
so
should call it.
poetic. Yep, yep.
It is
It's
late. I am way off the rails, which is probably entertaining, but I'm also like need to sleep and I'm thirsty.
yep, 2 hours 20 so far. So yeah, if
That's
anyone,
funny. It was an hour ago when we said that we should stop.
yeah,
The first time.
anyone who got to the end, well done.
Yes, I do like the longer shows. Finding time to record them is hard, although it is entertaining when I'm tired and off the rails. So maybe that's, you know, maybe a bit of after dark's not a bad thing.
Yeah, we should put something about that in the title, like call it off the rails.
That sort of works with the rage theme from earlier.
Yep.
Oh,
Oh
you do
well.
something like that. I always re-listen anyway and pick out something. You know, we're 9 episodes ahead at this point.
Oh, that's good. So, are we at that?
So we'll make 10, although I'll be putting another up today, so that'll go back to 9.
Yeah. Then it's trying to get to the 20 episodes that only 1% of podcasts ever get to.
Oh, we've recorded that. We just haven't uploaded that.
Yeah.
This is number 20, by the way.
Ah, yay. We got there.
There you go. 1%ers. Yeah. We are the 1%.
Bite me.
I will get there. We were talking about business and stuff today. Me and my workmate, which is good. That's a lot of what our conversations are, which is business, which is awesome, by the way. And we had a couple of conversations about the way that you could make mad money on YouTube as well. So that's
Mm,
good.
yes.
More verticals.
If I don't hit the stop button sometime, we'll just keep talking, won't we?
Yeah,
Okay.
we should press the
Bye.
button.
Go to bed.
Bye.